Hi, my name is George, and in this video I will talk about a scenario called the perfect disease, a pandemic that could end our current civilization. But first, let's talk about something else. Is it even possible to predict the perfect pandemic? Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, my mother watched the 2011 movie Contagion, and she asked me did the movie got things so right, compared to the actual pandemic. I told her that, as far as I know, it's because the movie producer had good science advisors and they got some things pretty accurate, some not so accurate. In the movie, the virus originates from the bat, just like in the case of the COVID-19 pandemic. Why bats? Because bats are a huge reservoir of viruses that they host and transmit. In the movie, the bat's habitat is destroyed by human activities, with a bulldozer destroying it. The virus was transmitted via an intermediary animal, the pig. In reality, they suspected there was some kind of animal from China's wet market. Personally, I think that it might have come from a Chinese laboratory, but who am I to say? The symptoms are somehow similar, since both are respiratory diseases that mainly affect the lungs. There is also the non-proven remedy for Forsythia via chloroquine, the spread of rumors, misinformation and disinformation. But there are also differences between the reality and the movie. The mortality rate, the speed of transmission, and some dramatic effects like seizures and fronting from the mouth of the infected, which are probably added from their dramatic effect. So you see, if you have access to the right information, you can put together a plausible scenario regarding a deadly pandemic. Take, for example, Bill Gates. His famous talk from TED from 2015, when he had access to good advisors and he understood the significance and the information he received. He's not some evil mastermind trying to implant chips in our minds and control the population, as some conspirators claim. Now let's imagine a potential disease. What characteristic would the worst case scenario have? What would be the perfect disease? Now, the origin of the perfect disease can be natural spillovers or something created or modified by us. Natural spillovers have happened in the past. For example, smallpox, cholera, influenza, AIDS, Ebola, and the list goes on. In fact, around 60% of humankind's deadliest killers originated in animals, and because we destroy the natural environment, we come into contact with more viruses, increasing the chances of natural spillovers. With a natural habitat and host destroyed, these viruses will try to adapt and infect us if possible. However, the chances of viruses created by us spilling into the human population are also increasing. Why is this? Because scientists are involved in dangerous types of research, such as gain-of-function research. This means that they train viruses to gain certain functions, like the ability to infect new hosts or to create havoc in the infected organism. Now, it is pretty scary stuff, I must admit. There is also the fact that today synthetic DNA machines and synthetic DNA can be ordered online. You can basically create your own virus in the computer and order its DNA. It will be delivered to your home by post. It's easy, just a few clicks away. Now, the company that produce and sell these samples don't check all the genetic materials that they produce, only around 20-30% of it. So someone could potentially order dangerous genetic material, and all of this is becoming cheaper and easier to do. A perfect disease would be highly contagious. It would be able to infect not only humans, but also other species that could act as a carrier. Birds, for example, make great intermediary hosts. An airborne virus increases its chances of transmission, especially if it can survive in the air for a long time. Since we all breathe and share the same air, this type of transmission is highly effective. Other modes of spreading infection, such as direct contact droplets, vectors like mosquitoes, rats, ticks, have a lower rate of transmission, but increase the chances of being detected. Now, this virus should be also infectious while asymptomatic, as the absence of visible symptoms allows the virus to spread without people knowing. An example of this is the HIV virus, which can remain dormant for 29 days to 20 years before manifesting itself. We were actually fortunate that the HIV virus is primarily transmitted through bodily fluids. An airborne virus with such power would infect virtually the entire human population without us even knowing it. Now, this perfect disease would also mutate very rapidly, and it will be highly resistant to drugs, to antibodies, to our natural immunity, to vaccines, and possible to prevention measures. It would turn the medical system into a support system rather than a curative one. This would exacerbate and prolong the crisis, putting additional pressure on civilization. Once it would manifest itself, this virus would have a very high fatality rate, and victims would die rather quickly. Many survivors would be left with long-term or lifelong disabilities. The healthcare system and its resources would be overwhelmed. What would be the necessary mortality rate for collapse? It is hard to say. The network of society is kept alive by moving and active people, so we would need to discuss the mortality rate within this group. But this is a topic for another time. Is what I presented here a plausible scenario? Well, of course it is. We can even think of diseases worse than this, capable of wiping out the entire human population. But then I would have to change the name of this channel from Collapsology and Beyond to the Human Apocalypse. And at the moment, I have reason not to believe in that.